Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the relationship arena. We're here diving into the world of relationships, getting nosy, asking questions, speaking to guests, and generally looking at what comes up in sessions. So, my name is Ali Moore, and I'm the founder of Be More, and I specialize in the world of relationships. And today is a single episode, it's just me. So, we're taking this opportunity to look at one of the common themes that comes up when couples come into session so that I can give you my take on it and perhaps share some of the things that go on in session to help you navigate some of these topics. As always, these sessions for me are unscripted, so bear with me if I go off on a tangent. An idea comes to me and off I go. But today, I want to talk to you about conflict. So the general consensus is that couples come to couples relationship therapy because they are in some kind of conflict. Now, the first thing is that's not always the case. The other misconception is that the conflict is the issue. And I want to let you know that that's not always the case either. And the other thing is there generally are behavioral habits which can be worked on that can make conflict more like communication. So another phrase I hear a lot from couples, thruples, pods, groups, whoever's in the room is we don't communicate enough. And I'm thinking, well, that's huge. Like, what kind of communication? What are you not talking about? What's not being said? What are you not liking about it? Who's talking? Who's listening? So it's important to dive in. But what tends to happen is, for whatever reason, communication in an effective way is not happening. And they tend to be getting caught up into conflict cycles. And once you're in a conflict cycle and you feel like you're not being heard, what then happens is everything gets on your last nerve generally. So you have more conflict cycles because everything is getting stored up and nothing is getting resolved. So I want to change the way that you think about conflict. It isn't the conflict that's the issue. Conflict can, in fact, be healthy. It is not good to not have any disagreement. It is not good to be a complete people pleaser. It is not good to air your differences. It is not the conflict. It can be refreshing sometimes to have some kind of conflict. It's what's also known as rupture. All relationships have rupture. So you're not on your own. It's not uncommon. It's actually quite the opposite. Groups of people are never going to agree on the same thing all the time. It isn't the conflict. It isn't the rupture. It's the lack of resolution, the lack of repair. And when repair doesn't happen, conflict becomes hard. Conflict feels like conflict, but it doesn't have to. So let's look at some of the top behaviors that can prevent not conflict from happening, because that's not our intention. What are some of the behaviors that stop good repair happening? Well, number one is actually avoidance of any conflict. Some people, for many reasons, are really conflict averse. They find it so uncomfortable. They can't bear the thought of rocking the boat. They've got this learned behavior that conflict could lead to extreme things, including and up to ending of the relationship. So they don't say what they want to say. They people please. They hold it in. And either that leads to long-term frustration and resentment. It leads to your partner sometimes having no clue that there's actually an issue, so they can't fix anything because they didn't know there was a problem. It leads to the person feeling unheard. Well, if you're not saying it, of course you're unheard. Or it can lead to it building up to a point where then this person explodes. And we don't have conflict, we have damage. The person can't contain it any longer. They're not going to get resolution when they're in this frame of mind. This is not going to be helpful. It's going to be hurtful to all parties. So avoiding conflict is not good. So if you're sat there going, well, I try and smooth everything over, we never argue, we've always got to keep the peace. I question that with clients a lot and say, why do you think you need to? What is it that you're worried about that prevents you from leaning in and having some disagreements, from saying you don't agree, from sharing your needs, from sharing your wants that you feel need to be addressed? What is that? The second one is really common. It's what I call attack and defense. When somebody is telling you something that you don't want to hear, sometimes even something you do want to hear, what you're doing is you're thinking about what you're going to say next. They're in their space, you're in your space, and you're staying in your space. And if it's something you don't want to hear, you're not only thinking what you're going to say, you're thinking about how you feel about it. You're thinking about whether you agree with it. You're thinking about whether it's fair, and you're putting this all together. So you're hearing words, but you've tuned out of their space and you're in your space. And you are waiting for that opportune moment, not to reflect and acknowledge what they've said, not to look for solutions, but to defend yourself because you feel attacked. And that's really common as well. We don't like to be wrong. We don't like to hear rough things. We don't want to be often the person who's hurt somebody. We may not understand and we may not agree. But one of the things we work on with couples is allowing them to simply hear their partner, acknowledge their partner, reflect on the emotion. We encourage them to step into their partner's space. And that's really important. And it defuses that and it breaks that cycle of attack and defense. So I wonder how many times you've been in conversation and it's been getting tricky and it's actually just turned into an argument. One couple said to me that they realized they did this so much that very soon the argument was about something completely different. They were both arguing about a really different topic. And then when they stopped and thought about it, what was originally trying to be resolved was completely forgotten. They were no longer looking for resolution and problem solving. They were looking to win a battle. So do you feel like you're trying to win a battle when you're looking to resolve conflict? Another thing that's a very common behaviour and learnt behaviour is not being able to see the alternative view. You're holding on. You're a yes, but person. Yes, but that's not going to work. Yes, but let me repeat what I already said. Yes, but I think you're wrong. Being a yes, but person means that you're not open to new ideas. Something has caused conflict in the first place. Something needs resolution. Something that's been happening hasn't been working. And you can, of course, always have choice to stand by, and you may feel like you're really right. But again, if you can't hear someone else's perspective because you're so worried about letting go of your own perspective, this can cause some real issues and you won't get to resolution. You're never going to look at those new ideas. You're never going to see alternatives, and they're going to feel blocked. They're going to feel shut down. They're going to feel like it's your way or the highway. So is that something that you do? Is that a behavior that you see on a regular basis? Brooding. You store it up. You're not avoiding it, but you're doing the whole, everything okay? Yeah, fine. You're not fine. You're not communicating. You're saying you're fine. You're not fine. Okay. And your partner knows that you're not fine. Okay. They get it, right? They can hear it and see it in your body language. And what it means is I'm brewing and I'm building it up. And then I'm going to let you have it. Okay. But then I might say, how could you not know I wasn't fine? So holding on to it and then assuming that your partner is a mind reader. If you don't say, they don't know, and they know something's off, but they can't help you. So what are we trying to do with good repair? Good repair is about accepting that conflict happens. It's about accepting that people have disagreements. It's about accepting that you're different people. And it's saying, actually, I want to allow you to feel the way you feel. And it's okay for you to feel the way you feel. What I really want to do is move into a problem solving aspect. So we look at it in kind of three different stages. Firstly, we're in crisis stage. This is where the couples get to say exactly what's going on for them. They get to hear each other, they get to reflect, they get to acknowledge, they get to feel heard, they get to get it all off their chest, but in a nice structured way. Then we have exploration stage, and exploration is based on what I now know and based on what you've told me and based on what we now understand, the real reality is what needs to be different? What can we both bring to the table? And step 3 is implementation and action. So crisis, exploration, implementation and action. Often couples will end up going back over cycles and there's no resolution. When things aren't resolved, what also happens is every time they have an argument, the thing from the past will get brought up. It's an unresolved issue. And whilst it remains unresolved, it's ammunition. You always, you never, here's another time. Yo, this is just like when you, because you're not getting that resolution. So explore what the possibilities are, but then say what's needed to make this change. Conflict can be a wonderful opportunity to create change in your relationship. Assuming that everything that you disagree on is going to be a difficult conversation sets the tone from the outset as well. I often see couples where they just believe that you're going to behave in a certain way. You're thinking for your partner. You don't know what's going to happen until you lean in. So why not give it a try? Why not look at conflict in a different way? Why not say conflict happens? Repair is what we're looking for. Disagreement happens. Resolution is what we're needing. When we look at conflict in different ways, communication becomes easier. You move from conflict into communication. When you have communication, you can have really good repair. So what of those behaviors do you recognize? Which of those are you sitting there going, oh, that's me. I do that. These behaviors I learned from a really early age. And it takes time and it takes practice to change them. Just by recognizing them, you can really, really help. When did you last ask your partner to tell you how they feel and simply acknowledge it back? When did you last really hear them? And how do you feel about conflict? Thanks for listening to this latest podcast and a short glimpse into what goes into sessions with couples. We're always looking for guests to come on the show. We're always looking for people to tell us about their relationships. And I'm really, really nosy. My next episode is with the fabulous family lawyer, Ellie. And Ellie Foster is leading the way in helping people divorce better. So I'm really excited to be in that episode with her, which will be released next week. In the meantime, if you'd like to be a guest, why not drop us a note? Do you have a relationship story that you want to share? And if you've got comments and questions, then why not get in touch? You can find out all about the work that happens with me and relationships at www.bemore.uk. In the meantime, look after each other and have a wonderful relationship with self and everyone else.